Again, tonight's segment is on strengthen relationships. I trust that most of you have been continuing on the classes of Ignite. All right. In summary, this is what each topic, each class will always offer you. It's a lot of people that not only take Ignites once, they take it twice, they take it 3 times. To Karen's point, there's always something new to learn. And as we know in life, there's always good times to always have a refresher, even when you know. So tonight's topic is about strengthening relationships, which is a very valuable key component for one to start building their business. And what that means under this topic, what we're going to be talking about is establishing mindsets, right? Identifying your goals and devising the plan, right? Devising the plan with when you start making contact and when you start building that portfolio of contacts, if you will, and things of that nature. And then, of course, we'll finish up with some recap, any questions, any ahas that you may have. And then daily success falls under that lead generating category, which I think I want to, allocate at least maybe the last 20 minutes or so to that. So, to allow everyone to be relaxed, hopefully prepared to go ahead and tackle making some texts or calls or what have you. And then we'll take it from there. All right. So with all that, let's jump right into established mindset. Quote said by our very own Gary Keller, right? Know that growth comes from clarity, priorities, and focused action. And this is where I'm going to pause, share, because I want to look at everyone as much as I can. Is in regards to what that means, right? The reality is, I'm not sure about you guys, but not every day does everyone wake up feeling like Superman, right? So we got to account for those days when we wake up still not wanting to get out of bed. Let's just be frank, right? Rather, we're exhausted from personal life, whatever the case may be, but not everyone wants to get up and make calls. We're going to be real. And so with that, establishing your mindset is so important when it comes to being an entrepreneur, not being a real estate agent, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, because our job is double the work that you would do otherwise. And so it's important for us to establish a morning routine is what I would certainly recommend. By a show of hands, no judgment here. This is how we grow. Do any of you guys have any morning routines that has really helped you, even on those lowest mornings that you don't feel like getting up, what have you, that you'd like to share? Maria, I see you. I can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm super excited that you asked this question because the past 2 weeks, um, I have been going with a friend at 6 in the morning to the gym, and I found that has kickstarted my day way more. Like my fiance and I, in addition for me doing this, I'm also we own a business on the side, so our hours a bit flexible, and we were getting into the habit of sleeping in. But since we've started early in the morning, I find the productivity is just huge. Um, Starting out early and then doing a little bit of exercise gets the brain going.
How early are you waking up?
Well, we were doing 5:30, but I'm gonna have to go even earlier now. So it's gonna be
Hey,
done.
kudos to you. That's been a
Yeah.
goal of mine for years. I've tried to do it. I've done it, but in terms of staying consistent, so my wake up time is 6 o'clock because I realize, but I'm so happy that you're doing it. And they say, what do they say? It's a phrase that says, right, rock stars wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you go ahead, Maria. You continue doing it. Kudos to you. Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you.
You're welcome. Anyone else want to share something that you do in your mornings to kind of help you prepare for yourself? And again, no judgment. This is how we learn together. Some of you, thank you so much for your texts, your messages and all that. I'm also able to read and catch those. But in essence, in my walk, Miracle Morning has been my secret sauce book that has just been the easiest to read. In fact, he's made one customized for realtors. So I would recommend for you guys to get that. You should be able to buy it at a reasonable price. It's a 67-page book, and it's called Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Elrod being Elrod. And so what I love about him, I was able to meet him when he had his book launching event in Howard County many years ago, related to real estate. But the point is that he used to be a lender. And he was one, as many, that was very successful, had it all, had the whole shebang, and unfortunately got into a terrible car accident. God bless him, and he lost it all. So as you can imagine, anyone in that phase, when you are coming from that position and you lose all and all that type of stuff, you can imagine the type of emotions that one can go under. So I appreciate his humbleness, his honesty, in terms of being able to describe how low that is, right? And although everyone, of course, has their own story, the point is that even when someone finds themselves at such a low point, right, how to be able to get back to work, how to be able to get back to, like we said, being an entrepreneur, being a realtor, it's double the work, right? So I love how he was open and honest to his story, and that's what inspired him to do the things that he recommends in this book. And what he does in the book, it's an acronym which says is savers. And so I proudly always talk to as many people that want to listen about this book, because this book, in essence, these activities that he recommends in this book has really changed my life, where he encourages you to do what Maria said, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And of course, you wake up according to what works for you in your household. But the point is that for him and his, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, because that was 2 hours before the rest of his household woke up. And so, as you can imagine, right, 1 hour really goes by really fast, especially when you're finally having that woo side time. So that's why he encourages in the book to consider waking up at least 2 hours. So then that way, that sort of that thought that, oh, hurry up, right, is not even a matter. And so he encourages in the first S in Savers to silence your mind. Instead of you jumping out of bed or doing what, most of us do, take that time to just relax, right? Think about what have you. But just silence yourself, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes. And then from there, he says affirmations. A is for affirmations. And that's where you can say words to yourself, right? And they always encourage you just like to do a vision board, but also do your own words of affirmation, because only you know the right words that will sort of trigger you to do what it is that you're wanting yourself to do. So rather it's the I'm capable, I'm able, I'm going to make 10 calls today, I'm going to meet 10 people today, whatever it is, no one can tell you what that is except yourself. That's the cool thing. The V is for visualizing. This is such a key component, because for any of you that can relate, think about it, right? Most of you may drive off of your schedule book that you got to be here at 9 o'clock, you got to be here at 10 o'clock, you got to be here at 3 o'clock. But did you factor in that this is the morning you got to get gas? Did you factor in that you got to drop your kids off at this time? Did you factor in that these things that if you visualize your day, rather it's in the morning before you get to work, or during the day, this is the day I have to go to the grocery store during lunchtime, this is the day I have to go drop the dry cleaners off, whatever it is, everyone has their own thing. But the point is, are you allocating that in your schedule? Because oftentimes we don't. And then we're the ones that's rushing, cursing anyone else that cusses on the road. It's not our fault that you're running behind. So it's doing those small things. The point is to be able to visualize your day from that component in that little silence segment that you have. He refers it to more when you're meditating, when you allow your mind to go and or analyze your day. But in essence, that alone can really, one, eliminate that unnecessary, that you leave it up to someone else to depict your happiness, right? That someone up being that person that cuts in front of you on the road, or is taking their time crossing the street. That anger, as you can imagine, in that brief 5 minutes can sometimes impact the rest of your day. And so if you allow yourself to position yourself to time yourself better, then those are the type of small things that eventually you're going to reap, right? Being that of less of frustration, if you will, what have you. The E then stands for exercising. As I love again in his book, he's like, who likes to be at the gym? But I'm not encouraging everyone to be at the gym. Chris, I hear you. It's been a journey. But the point is that he says, even if you're doing jumping jacks for 15 minutes, the point is that you're getting your blood flowing, because that alone is also scientifically that internally that helps you get that additional boost, that energy that can hopefully eliminate you dragging, right? So exercising at least 15 minutes. And so in that walk, it's been incredible being able to have this conversation with people, because, in that walk, this is when you start, what, today I don't feel like going to the gym, but I want to go walking for 4 miles. Today, I don't feel like going to walk, but today I'm going to try yoga for 30 minutes. So in other words, let's not get stuck on the fact thinking that exercising and only the common routine of going here. There's many other ways of what you could do to get your blood flowing. Then after E, then it's R, right? I'm spelling correctly. Savers. R is for reading. He encourages, of course, reading. Again, we are in a people business. We talk to people all day. And so reading really does help with our vocabulary, and also helps us with so many things, but definitely vocabulary in terms of communication, because, rather you're introvert or not, you're going to have to, turn that a bit around. And so reading does help out with that. And then the last one was scribing, which in other words is journaling. So, it's how you're going to include that in your morning routine. That's up to you, but that is something that really I can say I put it to test and it really works. And that's what helps me sort of have this energy that you see in front of me now. And mind you, I do have 3 kids, so the energy is needed. So with that, that's definitely a book that I would recommend in regards to what to do to bounce your mind up. Because again, these are type of things that's going to only prepare you to face and tackle those such days. Now, these are just one of the tactics of what you can do to keep your mind afloat. So if that's making sense, and or if there's any other recommendations that anyone want to share, by all means, please, the floor is open.
And I'm sorry, you say the name of that book was
Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning? Okay.
And you'll
Yeah.
see when you pull it up that it says Miracle Morning for Realtors, because he has it for different professions and or he just has the general book and what have you.
Oh, okay. Got it.
We started a book club at our office, and the first book that was chosen is Ninja Selling,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a morning ritual. And so I have started doing it just to get into the process. So I will also have to look at the Miracle Morning and see if I can find some information from that.
Thank you, Sue, for sharing. Would you like to share any of those things that have worked for you from that book?
Well, it's a matter of I'm retired from 35 years in the real estate or in the finance business, but my husband has been in the real estate business for that long too. So I'm basically taking over his business. So I'm learning, you know, what I need to do to be able to keep the business going and being grateful for everything that I've gotten and making sure that I have a strong and convincing affirmation that I can, step in for him and go from there.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sue.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any recommendations of book or anything to read? Or things to do in the morning time that has helped you in your walk? Oh, and in regards to reading also helps with stuttering. Because a lot of times I've heard it, and maybe not any of you guys, but point is that if that is also of something that, reading does help with stuttering. A lot of times I've heard it throughout the walk of, new folks that come into our industry. It's like, I'm afraid to talk because I tend to stutter, but reading does help out with that. And again, I can attest to that because I used to stutter a lot. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So this, of course, talks about, right, as we know, the process, and I'm sure you guys have seen it in previous Ignite classes, right, that talks about and encourages you that, remember, for every person that you contact, rather it's in person, you're at the gas station, what have you, however it is that you do your part, remember to put them in a database. And so remember, by us being with Keller Williams, then you guys should have access to Command, I would assume. The 5 o'clock a.m. book. Oh, that's a great one. I've heard of that one. Thank you, Maria, for sharing that. That's definitely a great one. And kudos, because she is the one that's waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So she says the 5 a.m. Club, guys, as another book that she recommends to read. So remember, for every contact that you make, then you want to add them into your database. And so remember, the cool thing about Command as it continues getting enhanced is that it allows you to put a tag to them, so it can help you sort of future-wise know who they are, what have you. A lot of things of what you can do is, sort of put as a suffix, right, where you met them at, or even add it in the notes. You can also add tasks to remind you to call them and follow up with them on X date. So I would certainly recommend to dive into Command, take the classes that educate you more on how it works and all that, because that's definitely the platform, that's common to us. But of course, there's many others, but I can only stick true to Command because it really does offer a lot of good features that helps us in our business. And so the point is, right, as you cater to that business, you put the right tags on it. In the previous class that I had taught, we talked about, classifying your clients. So, most of us, again, if every time I teach a class, by the way, I always like to remind people, you could talk to 5 veteran realtors and everyone's going to have what works for them. As you continue diving and getting education from anyone that you may look to, you're going to hear 5, but the goal is hear what works for everyone, and you work, you find whatever works, whether it's combining or what have you. But the point is that you want to classify your clients, and classifications normally means that, you know, class A would be those individuals that you have met that need to move in the next 3 months. Class B would be those individuals that would need to move in the next 4 to 6 months. And then class C would be those that, you know, they're non. I've also seen some colleagues that do a class D for those that are year and higher. So again, whatever works for you, but remember, as you continue building your pipeline, it's going to be important for you to classify your folks, because in the long run, that's going to help you remember how and what, you know, you can help them. And so this is, again, in essence, what I'm explaining to you all. And then it also kind of breaks down to help you understand a lead is one person, right? When you're sort of reaching out to them, but then a contact becomes when they're engaging with you and they're back and forth, right? And now it starts becoming a two-way conversation. And so this is when we're going to dive more deeper into what does that mean, right? And so before we get started, this quote in front of you reminds us, right, focusing on building relationships and taking market share. So the goal is that for every contact that you meet, you're to, you know, build relationships from them. And this is when I encourage you to put yourself in that consumer shoe, because I'm sure that most of you have gotten calls from creditors, and you know, when you were 18 and everyone's calling you about, you know, credit cards, for example. How can you position yourself so you won't sound like that or be that? That's a challenge and a question that I will encourage you to ask yourself later, because hopefully by you reflecting on what that means for you, remember, right? By you being authentically you, then you attract that of what's authentically you. And normally by you starting there, that'll help you understand what can I say, questions that can I ask to uncover what I need to uncover about this person in front of me, so I can show them that I am the person of choice in relation to, you know, any services to real estate. So I feel like the more that you can position yourself from that perspective, the more that'll actually sort of start highlighting to you what demographics you want to serve, how to approach them, right? Also gearing up your elevator speech, right? That if you have only 10 seconds to talk to them, like, what are you going to say to them in those 10 seconds? I know myself. You come to me trying to sell me something, you know, but I think that in today's world, I think most people are like that. And of course, I know that I'm only one of many, but the more that you can identify the different types of personalities out here, the more you have chances of being able to lock in on building that relationship, right? This is also when I encourage you guys, if you haven't heard of it already, about DISC. DISC is many ways of how at large, right? There's so many of us in this world, and everyone has their own backgrounds or what have you. But in essence, scientifically, we're sometimes fall under 4 categories. And so there's a test that's free if you'd like to Google it, that talks about, it's Tony Robbins, as a matter of fact. I think most people know about Tony Robbins. But anyway, he does a free test online. You just Google it. It's DISC test. DISC, D for David, D for driver, I for influencer, S for strategist, or S for S, C for a conscientious type person, personality. But in essence, you answer the brief questions that he asks you, and in return, you'll see that I kind of give you a backlog as to who you are. But the cool thing is that as you do it for yourself, you'll see that a lot of times, you know, a lot, you know, most of us have things like that in common. I believe that sometimes every household may have that if it's more than one person, where more than likely you should be able to identify who's the driver in that household, right? Who's the influencer in that household? Who's that strategic? I can never pronounce that word, guy, but the S is normally for that person that, you know, strategizes things and looks at it from that dynamic. And then C is more of the conscientious. Thank you, social. Thank you, Lindsay. You see teamwork, y'all. And then C is that person that analyzes everything. And so S and C tend to fall under that analytical part of way. And then that D and the I are like, yeah, let's go for it, right? You know, so it's cool to be able to identify that at large, as you're encountering different individuals, you know, you really got your stuff down when you can sort of have a conversation with someone and you can analyze what kind of person that is. Because as you can imagine, the more that you can identify the kind of person, then that's when you're able to then meet them where they are, right? And so what does that mean to you? If you're ever encountering a client that you can tell that they're the analytical person, then every single time you meet with them, especially in your consultation with them, you should have facts in front of you. You should have analytics in front of you. You should have things that's going to feed into that person. And again, the more that you're able to meet people where they are, then that's, again, a way of how you can start building lasting relationships, and hopefully can guide you into, yes, thank you, Mariah. You see, guys, everyone, dominant, inspiring, supportive, and conscious person. So thank you, Mariah. Thank you, guys. So in other words, the more that you're aware of these things, right, that'll help you, of course, take market share. And so remember, it starts with mindsets. We've dove into a bit about things of what works for some of us on here. And of course, I'm sure that there's many other ways, but in other words, reading is power. Um, for those of us that may not always keen to reading, an easy read that I think that every living person on earth should read is Think and Grow Rich. I think that Napoleon Hill does such an incredible job in terms of being able to identify so many things. So that's an easy read as well that I would encourage. Speaking of books, in terms of things that can sort of put our mindsets at a point where not only are we growing within ourselves, we're inspiring ourselves, but yet hopefully that could then also give you reason to continue going, do it over and over again, be consistent, but yet also with that light, as you can imagine, that is the light that most people appreciate. I completely agree. Maria said, what, the book, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I told you guys, this is going to be an engaging class. This is a short period, so let's make this fun. Oh, got it. So thank you. So she also validated that book as well. Another good book, guys, is Psychology of Money. That's such a good book. It's like an MREA. Of course, also read MREA by our very own Gary Keller, because I just feel like MREA is like the Bible of being a successful real estate agent. So these are all four books so far that we've talked about, 5 books with the one that Sue mentioned. Ninja Selling, Miracle Morning, Psychology of Money, Ninja Selling. Yep, I actually have that book too, by the way, Sue. I have it right here. It's a great read, so make sure you guys read it. And like she said, the book also includes shares with you tips of what you can do to get your mindset, as best as possible, so that way you can tackle the day as best as possible. Mariah, you said you're an S and an I. Yeah, and it's funny because over the time you'll see that you change. Psychology of Money, yes, is a very good book as well. So anyway, it's funny because over the years you'll start realizing that you're changing, because I used to be a high D, and so now I find myself being more on the I side. So it's pretty cool how you can see yourself evolve and or be able to kind of move here and there. All right. So with that, mindset is important. I mean, if there's anything, right, if you can imagine starting your day becoming that, then that's how you are able to better attract and build your pipeline of business. All right. Another quote by Gary: once you meet your new contacts, you either do business with them immediately or you don't. Either way, once you've met them, you put them in your database and stay in touch with them forever. And so what he encourages you is be bold, right? Encouraging to the fact that rather you have a person in front of you or not, and rather you convey the person into a contact or not, that's up to you. But now if time passes and you keep doing that with everyone, of not making them a contact, then imagine when you reflect, you're like, they go, oh my goodness, right? There's all those people that I met that could have been a potential. So in other words, all it takes is about being bold, guys, and you can do it. All right, identify goals. All right, so before I jump into that, this is where we're going to be clear, okay? So in terms of goals, I'm big on this part as well, right? And I wouldn't say anything to you guys of what I wouldn't have done for myself, nor what I've seen done from a lot of successful people in our industry, especially with our company, is that the more that you're able to align what you do today to what you ultimately want to do, then that alone is another ingredient to that secret sauce on how to keep your mindset at best to tackle the things that you know you have to do. One of the things that I love about Keller Williams is that they offer us that unique, how do you call it? That unique database, if you will, that allows you to be able to come clean with your TL or whoever is your leader in your office, that person that you report to, if you will, that says, hey, you know what? I need to make $100,000 this year. And I say $100,000 just using an example, but whatever that number is to you, that's the cool thing about you being able to identify that big number. And they say, if it doesn't wake you up in the morning, if it does not excite you to get up, then it's not big enough. Mind you, you're in an industry, real estate, that you can literally think of any number and really make it happen. And the cool thing is that you're in a company that allows you to identify so many ways of how you can make that happen. And so if being a real estate agent is what your focus is now on how to make that happen, then dream big. So if by chance, for example, 100,000, let's just use that as a number. You're like, I need to make $100,000 this year. Keller Williams, your TL should be able to, it will normally direct you as to how to find what that means for you. So what that means, it's gonna be different for everyone. So let's just say $100,000, your firm, I need to make $100,000 plus or more, whatever number you choose. Then that's when your TL is gonna then ask you, okay, well then, do you know what price point you're gonna be working at? Right. And so that's when it's going to help you dive deeper, as in, like, well, I actually want to work over here in, let's just say, Sam Smith neighborhood. And typical average sales price in Sam Smith, because acknowledging we have people all over the nation here. So let's just say that in Sam Smith, the average sales price in that area is $250,000. So then that person that would guide you on that database, then that's when they can tell you, okay, got it. So that means that, for that type of sales price, your average commission, that's when they're going to be asking you as well. That means for your average commission, you should be earning this, if that's your focus point, in terms of that sales price. And normally in this sales price, that means that you're going to be gaining this type of commission. So after the breakdown of that commission, then that means this is how much you're going to net. So if then that database then helps you understand, okay, got it. I don't know what the math is, guys. So don't take literally what I'm saying. I'm just giving you a general idea about how powerful this database is. If you really use it, is that it helps you turn that $100,000 around to helping you understand how many units you then need to close. But then the cool thing is that it then goes further into, then it asks you, okay, got it. How many, what's your conversion rate like? Right? So in other words, you can have a contact in front of you, but what are your chances of turning that contact into an appointment? And so this is when you have to be real with yourself. And it's okay if it's a low number. It's okay, especially if the person is new. It's understandable. But yeah, even if you're new, the conversion rate can still be, strong. But the point is, the more honest you are with yourself, the more it helps you sort of create that ladder, if you will, helping you understand exactly what your schedule should look like. So in other words, let's just say in essence that person helps you understand that, okay, in order for you to make that, $100,000, you need to close 30 properties this year. And that means, so you to close 30 properties this year, then that means you need to close 2 houses every month or 3 houses every month, but yet then goes back to your conversion rate. So that means how many points of contact do you have to make, because you identify that you can convert a person 35% of the time. So then that means that, okay, now let's just make it plain English, 50% of the time. And so that means that, okay, in order for you to close 2 transactions, then you need to get in contact with at least 20 people to convert at least 10 of them, then hopefully start showing 10 of those properties, or even if it's listing properties, for example, but we're focusing here on buyers, let's just say, then that means you got to get 10 of them to start showing them properties, getting, at least 4 of them under contract. So then that way, if 2 fall through, then you at least are still meeting your 2, right, of the numbers that you said at first that you needed to close this year. So don't shy away just because we're in the second month of February. It can start wherever you start with that. So that's a cool thing. And so bringing it back to identifying that number, right? So far I've mentioned this year, right? Implying like, what do you want to make this year? But the cool thing that, that we're encouraging is to think bigger than that, right? So in essence, if you're like, I want to, in 5 years, I want to do this. In 10 years, I want to do that. Then start from that point. Okay. So if you start from that point and you're like, I need to have X amount of money saved up. I want to have X amount of properties that I own. I want to have whatever it is. Like, you're the one that can make your own life. That's the cool thing about what you do for a living. So remember the reason why you're doing it, and what, if you truly do it, what you can gain out of it. So instead of sort of connecting emotions to it, you're also connecting the reason why you have to then confront those emotions when they're telling you otherwise, if this is all making sense. So in other words, I'm encouraging you, when it talks about identify your goals, go as far back as to the time period you can think of, right? What's important to you? Let's just start with, where you want to be? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And what do you want to do in 10 years? And what do you want to have? If you can identify those 4 questions, then that's going to then help you understand, okay, that means that by year number 5, more than likely I need to be halfway there. So then by being halfway there, right? If you said in 10 years from now, you need to own at least 5 properties and you want to have at least X amount of money in savings account, then you split that in half, then 5 years. And so now at the 5-year mark, being the halfway mark, then this is when you then start breaking down the next 5 years for you. So if that's still overwhelming, then that's when you can say in 2.5 years or in 3 years, I need to have, right, more than likely half of that 5-year mark. And so that's how you're able to break down the next 3 years. And so that's what helps you get closer to the line. And the cool thing is that that's why they always say dream big, because you can yearn to get $100,000, but if you make 75, then guess what? You're still making more possibly than you would have aimed if you were aiming for 50, if that makes sense. So don't get lost in that I wasn't able to achieve what I ultimately said. The point is that you're 1% better in achieving you more than what you even envisioned had you not perhaps thought that far back, if that makes sense. And so that alone, by you bringing all that back together, and right now we're at year 3. So meet me at year 3 now. So now by you project that, then that's what then helps you carry to year number 2. Then of course that brings you back to year number 1. And so year number 1 is when you can use those, tools that once again Keller Williams offers, which is the 1-3-5s. Have you guys heard of the 1-3-5s and the 4-1-1s? That's all perfect. So then that's when that 1-3-5 comes in, right? So that one can be whatever you want. I've seen a lot of my colleagues do that. They do 1-3-5 for my personal life. I do 1-3-5 for my business, and I do 1-3-5 for my whatever it is. You're the one, but know that you can use it for different. So going back to the analogy that we use, that 1 would be making $100,000. Then that 3 would be, what are the 3 things that I'm going to do to make that happen, or to sort of feed me the clientele? Because mind you, from that 100,000, you more than likely learn from your team leader how many units that means. So let's just say, rough it out to say 30 transactions. I need to close 30 transactions. So then, and these are the 3 strategies of what I'm going to use to help me do that, right? And so sometimes the 3 strategies can be something like the teacher that first spoke, Callie, could be learning about all the teacher programs that's out there. Just an example. Or getting affiliated with the teacher association, that platform, that board, if you will, and understanding all the events that teacher association is going to have for teachers that year, because that's going to be that networking event, for example, that can put you in those, demographics, if you will, that it's attracted to what you have to offer. And then, of course, you can add another one, have you. So I'm just trying to show you, in essence, how it's much easier than sometimes we think when we think about, oh my gosh, I still got to also do that, So I'm just trying to break it down that way. And Callie, I hope you forgive me for using you as an example, but I just kind of want to let you know. Thank you for understanding. And then the 5 is for breaking down how you're going to do it. So, for example, we've used so far about the teacher associate. I'm just using that as an example. All right, I'm going to affiliate myself with a teacher's organization. The 5 strategies is that I'm going to find out their events. I'm going to find out the programs, so I can bring, find out, I'm going to bring my business card, like find out what, this is the 5 things that you're going to do to make sure that is satisfied. So then that when you look back, yep, that I conquered number 2, and yep, number 2 did, number 2, because that was the illustration I gave. Number 2 did in fact bring me sort of that clientele that helped me achieve towards that 30. Right. And you do the same thing for the other 2 categories, for example. And so that alone, if that's when you start realizing that these are the 5 things that I need to make sure that I do this year, rather it's now or throughout the year. And then that's when you can start facing that 4-1-1, that this month I'm going to be focusing on one of those 5 strategies that I said I'm going to do. And so one thing at a time, you're tackling to do what it is that you did. And hopefully then that, in addition to you doing lead generating, then that's going to give you another way to lead generate, instead of you just having to pick up the phone, right? That's just another way of how you can lead generate. Because when you don't have business to serve, they say that the things that you should always do on a daily basis is lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, practice your scripts, and of course, negotiate contracts. Now, if you don't go on appointments, or if you don't have any contracts to negotiate, then that's when you go back to your scripts and you keep doing it over again. And believe it or not, the more that you stay to it, the more your business will start growing. So that is about identifying goals. And I like to dive into that because, oftentimes we think so much under the sun, and it's like so overwhelming at times, which is completely understandable. But I hope that illustration helped you guys understand just how easy it could be if you sort of break it down that way. Should I stop there, or you guys want to hear more about things of that nature, things under this category. You guys, by show of hands, no assault to me. It's okay. Do you guys want to keep going under this identify goals, or do you guys want me to continue on? Or you guys get what this means? Keep going? Is that what the yeses is that I'm getting? Yeah, keep going. Okay, so another thing I want to point out under identify goals is get to know your client, right? So the more that, so now we talked about at large for you and your business and how that correlates with your future to now. So now let's talk about who to call, right? This is when of how to break down the strategy plan. Thank you, Linda. This is now when it's encouraged for you to, again, we sometimes think at large and we don't realize how we could slim it down. This is another topic of things that what you can slim down is identifying your demographic. What does that mean? If you choose to be a real estate agent that only focuses on first-time home buyers, great. There's a demand for that, as you can imagine, but yet then identify what that means. Who are your first-time home buyers, right? Is it the fact that I want to cater to first-time home buyers that come back to this Smithville neighborhood that I want to master in? Or do I want to be the first-time home buyer in my state or in my city or in my county? Like, identify that demographic. And sometimes by you starting there, then that helps you then identify what is the common problem, if you will, common motivation that ignites that person. As you can imagine, first-time home buyers come from all walks of life, but the more that you break it down in essence to what that means, like, so for example, I'm Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. I speak it fluently, but anyway, I'm Hispanic. So I say that because a lot of times people don't know that I am. But the point is that I'm going to think about my folks, right? My Hispanics and identifying what being Spanish and being a first-time buyer means typically from what I've seen in my own walk with my own family or the people that I know, what have you. So that helps me understand normally what that type of problem is. Not necessarily now going back to my side, but just in general, what does that mean? Sometimes first-time home buyers, their problems is that they don't know where their credit is. Sometimes they're concerned about, do I have enough money to buy? Sometimes they're concerned about, do I make enough? Like, they're concerned about all these things, but the point is that you're identifying those problems. Now, the more that you identify those type of problems, then that's when it helps you. Okay, I do want to focus on, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not implying for anyone to do it, but I want to focus on first-time home buyers. I've identified that my demographic is more than likely they're going to have issues with their credits. They're going to have issues with this, or what have you. But the point is, okay, so that means let me partner with lenders, or let me start getting my book of lenders together that offer such programs and grants that can satisfy that problem. The same thing with other programs within your vicinity. Like, so for example, I know nationwide there's programs like NACA, NACA. Mine, Sue, thank you. You said your folks are about to retire and downsize. Exactly. So great job, Sue. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. It's like identify your demographic. And so what that means is that if I was focusing on, for example, individuals that are downsizing, then I think that a great number, one of your 1-3-5 strategies could be get to know all the retirement homes within your vicinity. Facts have always shown that your typical average person always moves within an 11-mile radius. So imagine that if you were to identify 11-mile radius, I'm going to get to know all the retirement homes around here. Or sometimes people don't even want to go to retirement homes, but anyway, any other of those type of services that happens, and then that way that becomes your book of vendors. So as you get in front of your demographic, Sue, and they're like, yeah, I want to downsize, but yeah, I don't know where to go or what have you, I need to do this, then bam, no problem. You're able to seal that deal right there, because now you're able to talk about, you know, that community that offers that of what they just described that they're looking for. You know, so that's a tactic that I would recommend if you haven't thought of it already to add to your 1-3-5. So in other words, by you identifying their problem, then that way you can prepare yourself to sort of meet them where they are and give them that problem solve, right? Because that's sometimes what they come to us for. They're hoping that we can help them solve the problem. But it's important for you to identify that problem. And I think that that is the biggest secret sauce of this whole conversation is how to strengthen relationships. You have to meet people where they are. Oftentimes we have this realtor hat on and we're all about, who do you know that needs to buy and sell? If I have a problem, I'm not thinking about that right now. But if you're able to meet them where they are and help them understand that you're not coming from that angle, it's about, hey, I understand you're in a situation. How can I help? Right? Oh, I just don't know what to do. My family, now they don't want to, we have this house. We don't know what to do with it. Remember, selling is not the only option. You can help them rent it. right? In certain areas, depending on where the property is located, it might be an ideal Airbnb. The point is that you start being that confidant, trustee of theirs in the real estate world, and that business will continue coming. And best believe, sometimes when you help them with that problem, even if they don't need your service, because you help them, then now guess who? When next time they come across an individual that needs a real estate agent, who do you think that they're going to talk to? Because even more, what stood out to them is that, wow, I didn't even give them a deal, but yet they still helped me out. And those are the type of things that people are looking for in our marketplace, whether they want to admit it or not. And that's a great way of how it's going to help you stand apart from your colleagues. Callie?
That made me think. I live in an aging neighborhood as well, and having information about assisted living facilities in the area is not something I had ever considered. And I put it in the chat, but I'm just curious, would you, it's like on my checklist, on my 30, 60, 90 day checklist, every once in a while, let's take a vendor out for a cup of coffee or something like that. Would you treat like representatives from assisted living facilities that same way, like get to know them so you know what they offer? Or would you just have like general information? This is some options in the area. You know what I mean?
Good question. Good question. If there's one thing I've learned with being with this wonderful organization, is not they help us think long term. And so because of the economic of everything, one, we're business owners. Two, the state of the economy. Three, I think that the talk of town more now is about keeping track of the expenses. So if it's not an expense that is guaranteed income, then as your friend, colleague, I'm gonna say don't do it. Now, granted, oftentimes we do it to get that, but yet we then have the option in front of us. Is it something that you feel that I don't need to do that? So before that, if you feel that that's the case to go, then absolutely nail it, right? Hey, I just want to take you out to coffee. But I think that what's wrong with you going to the site, introducing yourself, and just saying exactly that. Hey, I live in the neighborhood. I'm actually a real estate agent. I know of your, this retirement home, and yet I encounter individuals that more than likely will need your services. And if I ever do encounter them, who should I recommend for them to speak over here? And that way, right there, that right there, in my opinion, doesn't put you in a position where you have to sort of have an expense where you're just simply catering to that relationship, but yet hopefully they can also keep your information at top of mind. And that's that way of that face-to-face, I can imagine that it'll go a long way. So in other words, as you continue building your business, don't feel that for every contact you have to have an expense with it.
Zayden, take your clothes off.
Business.
Zayden, come here.
Oh.
You were jumping around the playground.
There's
doing all
Mama.
this.
Hi, Brianna. We hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Hi, Sharon. I hear you. Oh, Kylie, before I get to
Okay.
Sharon, did that answer your question?
Okay, sorry.
No problem, Brianna. Bring it on. If your child doesn't bring up, tell them to come on this class, okay? And we can all together give them a little taste of. I'm teasing. Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for sharing. Hi.
Hi, I wanted to share that for the last 10 years, including a little bit during COVID, I have been doing presentations at some of those independent living communities, sharing with them how to have an effective right sizing. And I have various partners that I have that on my team that can assist them with moving and how they can, rather than having estate sales, I have a vendor who picks up the items, writes down what she's picked up, and then she'll have on her own marketplace, she will do a video to people and she sells the items right there, and then she takes a certain percentage, but then she sends a check to the clients, and that really helps them. But meanwhile, until they're deciding to go ahead and move, they can still be working on the right sizing because they have 30, 40, 50 years of crap in their house. And I know this because I have the same thing, and I've moved with my stuff for twice. And you don't want to move it because you don't have room in those assisted living places. even their little storage area that they put aside to you, that's what they have a little bit that they can still go through things. I had a client that visited one of my sessions last year that her son, she had sold her house already, but she was so sorry. She wondered where I'd been because she wished she'd known about me. But she sold her house. Her son puts 1,700 boxes in his basement. He brings over every 2 weeks 25 boxes and makes his mother go through it.
Wow.
And she gradually gets rid of it. But it is very hard, and they get to a point that they wear out. And so you may not have a transaction for 2 years or maybe even 4 years down the road. But yeah, I wouldn't discount them because the directors of programming for those communities is looking for someone that can help them with that.
Got it. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that. And you opened up, you are also answering the questions that some of the young ladies had asked, because in essence, that's exactly right. So if your target is to work with senior citizens, for example, then retirement homes would be one. Then you can also have, to Sharon's point, the storage facilities. You can also have those individuals that haul out furniture. You can also have in your contacts or build relationships with those movers. You can also have in relationship, of course, stagers. In other words, put yourself in that. The more that you put yourself, and that's the cool thing about identifying your demographic, because then you're going to start putting yourself in their shoes. That if you were in their shoes, what service will you need? And so again, most of us them do look to us, right, for those things of the staging, of course, what have you. But once again, how can you set yourself apart from that average, right? And it's like, oh, you also need things to be moved out, not a problem. I have a contact for that. You said you need the house to be clean, not a problem. So this opens up your mindset to realizing all the different professionals that you then can build relationships with. And so Callie, don't realize, again, you don't have to treat all of them to coffee, but realize what's in it also for them, that, hey, I'm an active real estate agent working heavily in our area. I wanted to see if by chance you'd like to partner, in hopes that obviously you keep my name in mind in case you know of anyone that is needing to move in our area. And then of course I'm going to do the same for you. And perhaps later on down the road, maybe we can grab some lunch, because sometimes they'll invite you, by the way, because they know how hard us realtors work. So most of them always actually want to get in alignment with us. Now, also to Sharon's point, when you do approach that retirement home, then that's one of those sort of things of what you can say of what you bring of value, right? That if there's ever an opportunity for me to host an event here, rather that is selling your property, downsizing, rather that is putting your properties into a portfolio trustee, that's when you partner with that trustee attorney. It's so many avenues. And so that's exactly the point of me bringing this topic up, is to identify the problem at hand, because as you and it's not a problem, it's just a situation, let's just better term it. Identify the situation and you put yourself in that situation's shoes, and that's when you're able then to identify just how large this type of stuff can be. Then sometimes another thing is that when we have that contact in front of us, I don't know if that's ever happened to you all just yet, that they're all over the place because sometimes their situation is overwhelming, right? And it's completely understandable. And so the point is that sometimes they also are looking, in terms of those that can help strengthen a relationship, it's about help them meet them where they are and sort of help them understand what they're really trying to say, if you will. Because sometimes they can just, when they have that trust in you, they'll just start blurring out everything that's going on in hopes that they're sort of releasing, and yet you help them put the puzzle together. And if you can be that problem solver for them, that's another way of how you can strengthen the relationship, right? So it's about helping them identify what it is that they need, right? And so that's what I'm saying, is sometimes when they're outpouring to us, the more that you're able to identify what that is, then in other words, you're able to identify the hurt points, what's hurting them. You're able to identify what's motivating them. What, in other words, sort of counter back with that negative sometimes that gets released from them with the motivation that, hey, remember, there is a way, right? And then being able to then identify and put that into alignment with their goal. Got it. So this is a situation that you're in. Got it. And there's great ways that the good news is that there's ways to get there, but yet help me understand that this is what I'm interpreting from you, because I understand that by us doing this, then this is ultimately what's going to get you here. So you follow you see the emotions that you're going into that with that person. That's when you, and at least in my walk, that's what has helped sustain relationships, keep businesses, get referrals. That is the real estate agent, in my opinion, that's going to strive in this market, as opposed to, what a lot of times people assume that real estate agents are to be, just salespeople. No one wants to be sold to. But if you can understand that the license that you carry is to help people move, again, I say it in all my classes, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, people need to move. So if you're going to be that realtor that's going to help buy and sell, but you're also going to be that realtor that can also help them rent, that you're going to be that realtor that is in a position that you can literally help anyone move. And remember, today's tenant can be that tomorrow's buyer. So again, that's one of my ways of how I've been able to get business. For those realtors that was like, I just don't have time to cater to buyers, no problem, I'll take your tenants. Because at the end of the day, those tenants sometimes are tenants because they don't realize that they too can buy a property, because they just assume that, no, last I checked my credit, it was terrible. And oftentimes, a lot of times people think that they're in a lot worse situation that they're in, but the only way that they're unable to unveil that is by you strengthening the relationship. And the only way that you're able to traditionally, in my opinion, in this crazy, the world that we're living in now, no one wants to be sold to, but the more that you're able to meet them where they are and help them understand that you are the person that can help them achieve exactly what they just described to you, then that's when you're able to strengthen that relationship. All right. So we talked about, identifying demographics. I have made some notes. Another thing I'd like to also point out is that as you guys continue taking these Ignite classes, remember that outside of Ignite, there's also classes that NAR, National Association of Realtors, designates. So if by chance you are one that you want to specialize in working with buyers, then for example, NAR recognizes ABR as a designation, accredited buyer representative. They, if you want to work with senior citizens, they recognize SSRES, meaning for senior citizen, sellers, seniors, real estate specialists, something like that. If you want to focus on something. So in other words, that's another way of how you can build your confidence in terms of what to know, how to seal the deal, and and really take market share. So I like to just simply remind you that, remember, aside from Ignite classes, encouraging you to take classes through your association, your local association, and also through NAR. All right. And so remember, the business is lead generate, lead follow up, convert that lead into hopefully an appointment. As you continue building more people, talking to more people, the more you're going to have to classify them. And then eventually, as you continue catering to that relationship, then it turns into a transaction. But the point is to stick to it. All right. And then converting contacts to close business. Again, there's a lot of scripts that's offered amongst our organization. Your TL would be that great person if you don't already know where to find it. Because every jurisdiction, of course, as you know, every market center has their own way of how they do it, and also where you can find it. And then the point is that, being positioning your mindset that not only are you focusing on sort of one business, you can also cater to all. And so remember that obviously when one is a seller or one is a buyer, facts always show that they normally interview at least 2 realtors. Traditionally, the realtor that they ultimately choose, facts have always shown, is the first one that they talk to. Now, sometimes if that first one is not catering to what they expected, then that's when they move on to the next one or what have you. So you always want to be the first one to contact them. You also want to make sure you leave them something of value. When it comes down to leaving them with something of value, are there any questions, any concerns, any honesty about that topic? Like, how do I leave, what can I leave of value? Because that's oftentimes common feedback that I get from folks as I've mentored folks over the years. And it's okay. This is all about honesty. This is how we grow together. But any concerns about that part? Don't be shy. What I can leave of value. What can you leave of value? Put yourself in that consumer's shoes. If you were to go interview a financial advisor, and I'm only titling that because, of course, that's such an important profession, a profession that when consumers go meet with them, They hope to learn something new, learn how they can help you, learn how they can help you align your future goal to your current goal. So then that way they can leave you with something of value. So put yourself in that consumer shoes, because again, as you're identifying your demographics, as you identify who you want to cater to, then that's going to help you understand what that person is going to need. So leaving something of value sometimes can mean having a presentation when you actually meet with them, whether it's in person or via Zoom. Remember, Command offers you presentations already made, but of course, go in there and customize it according to your style. So they have buyer presentations and they have listing presentations that you can use for now. In addition to that, you want to have handouts, leave something of value, because they could talk to you today. Things will sound great, but yet they're going to talk to someone else on Saturday. So, but they're high on emotion off of the great contact that you guys just made. But today's Tuesday. By Thursday, more than likely, right? Not unless you left them with a wow, they may have forgotten half of those emotions and now they're ready to talk to the next person. So what do you have for when they're finishing with that person, they can fall back to say, damn, but you know what? I really do want to still work with that other person. So always position yourself there. Another thing on this topic is even rather treat family and friends as if you would treat a regular stranger. A lot of times I've heard in this walk of my colleagues in real estate is that, oh no, it's my so-and-so, I got the deal. But then little did you know that so-and-so, because mind you, we're human. And when you start, not everyone's like this, granted, but when you start wanting to buy a car, all of a sudden you're telling everybody, yeah, I want to buy a car. Hey, yeah, I'm thinking about selling it. And guess what happens? Oh man, you should use my realtor. Oh my gosh, they were so good. They would, it don't matter who you are to them. And so sometimes they may still be open to talking to you, but guess what? They heard that so-and-so did this and you didn't show any that you can do that. Now, don't get caught in that, oh, I can't meet that because I just got started a month ago. No, because remember, they're going to connect to the person that connects with them. And the more that you're able to uncover their need and show them that you're that person, that's the value that you're bringing. And in addition to that, I'm leaving some handouts about who I am, why I know I can help you, the organization I'm with, that rather I know the answer or not, I got a room of supporters at my brokers that can answer calls to help me, do whatever it is and I know I have to do to help you achieve whatever you have to hire. So the more that you're coming in from that perspective, and again, leaving something of value, then you are fully equipped, my friend. So you're good to go. So we are almost finished. I've said a lot. I told you guys this is a short and sweet class. This is just simply remember to aligning you guys to identify the goals, right? I've kind of given you more language and just beyond these 3 points here, but I hope that, by identifying the goals the way I broke it down helps you understand just what that entails and how by you truly identifying what that is, that too should help you on those days that you don't feel like picking up the phone or lead generating. Any ahas, any questions as we sort of go into the device plan, just so you know, was about, remember, when you communicate with your database, you want to, make sure that you're staying in touch with them as much as you can, in regards to, how frequently you should contact individuals. Now read your person, because, as I read my demographics, I know that I can't be one to say, hey, I just talked to you 2 weeks ago. Hey, I'm talking to you again a month. I better bring something of value. So I like to say that because you got to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. And if you're prepared for the worst case scenario, then everything else should be a breeze, right? So with all that, these are just all the ways of how you can remain in contact. And in terms of crafting your message, remember that as you guys practice your scripts, you want to read it if you got to read it to yourself, read it to your wall, read it to your pet, read it to your spouse, read it to your children, read it to your neighbor. Practice your script so you won't sound like no telemarketer. That is my biggest lesson of the day. Of all the things I've said, practice your scripts. You don't want to sound like that, because don't be surprised if the other end of it may not be what you want to hear. So the more that you're able to tailor it to your own personal style, be authentic, be real, be honest, have a servitude type of mindset, trust me, you'll be able to easily convert business and, God willing, be able to make that be longevity. So with that, before we go into lead generating, and remember, we're going to allocate, I told you guys 20 minutes, but I see that I lasted a little longer than I expected. So we'll go ahead and cut it down to, in the next 10 minutes, let's see if you guys can at least identify 10 A's. And let's do this together. Let's make this fun. All right, so I know that I'm sure you guys have been in Ignite before, and they're always like, let's lead generate, but let's make this a little unique here. Not to be unique, but just to hopefully ignite the fire for you guys to actually do it. Has anyone found a question that truly works that can allow hopefully the average to respond back to your question? And if so, does anyone want to share? Don't all scream at once. What can that mean? Let's see if I don't know if you guys are looking for an example, but that could be something like, hey, how are you? Just checking in. I mean, the state of the world is of topic right now. So however you want to do that, how are you? Any questions or what I can help you in? You know, I'm in real estate now. You have any questions in relation to everything that's going on in the world? I'm not telling you to word it just like that, but just trying to give you an idea as to one way. Another way is if there's anything that's recently happened in your area that you know is affiliated with them, then you can start the conversation there. If you haven't already introduced yourself to individuals, the fact that you are in real estate now, then you can do it then. Hey, just letting you know I'm in real estate now. So if there's anything I can do for you, I'm here for you. So those are 3 different types of angles that you can come in on. I just didn't want you going on there saying, hey, who do you know that wants to sell and buy? I was just trying to open up your mind to seeing, is there a unique way that has worked for you that you'd like to share it amongst your classmates to see if that can help anyone else convert some leads?
Well, I guess I'll respond kind of with a question because
Okay.
I'm a baby at this. I have spoken with a lot of people that are within my sphere, and we've all owned our homes for about 10 years. And every one of them is interested in moving, whether it's because of the school district, outgrowing their home or whatever, but they are all terrified of interest rates. They're all terrified of the economy. Like, how do you address that with people? Because I get that a lot. And
What part exactly? Break it down for me. Like, what exactly do you get a lot?
I get, I would never take on a mortgage with these interest rates right now. Our mortgage rate is, 2.3 or whatever. And so why would I sign up for a mortgage with a 7% interest rate or something like that?
And that's true. I mean, again, if someone says that, there is no if or but about it. You better agree with them, because if not, you definitely are, not being on, but the point is that clearly that's not of need for them. And I know I've also encountered a lot that I'm sure a lot of us on here have, right? Where they're like, yeah, I'm not moving. I'd rather just stay here until that's fine. Now, out of all of those, then it's more about maybe cueing the questions as a man. Have you ever thought about buying a second home? Have you ever thought about buying a vacation home? And so if you're still hesitant about what to say on that way, then that's when maybe that could be a to-do thing is, let me partner up or talk to, at least make it a focus and intention to let me connect with at least 3 to 5 new lenders or existing lenders that offer any unique programs for someone that can buy their second home. Now, with that, there's a lot of lenders out here, as we know, everyone's getting unique with their products that offer bridge loans, for example. Bridge loans are where they're saying, hey, you don't have to sell now. Let me help you find your next property. There's other ones that are encouraging about doing a home equity, using your home equity to buy that secondary property. So there's so many ways. So the more that you can identify those unique products that a lender can have, then the more then you're now not approaching those family members that said they don't want to sell their house. You're more now approaching them with, hey, perhaps if you know in that area, a well-desired neighborhood, for example, that is a vacation-like type of neighborhood, and you were to find a property that is actually cheaper than what you would know or seem to be true, and you can angle it from that perspective of saying, like, so for example, for those of us that's from the DMV, I think that, one of the top 3 beaches in our area, because of course Maryland State is surrounded by the ocean, and so we have several. But I think that for those of us that truly know our area, I think that let's just say Rehoboth or Bethany Beach may be one. You got Outer Banks that may be other, and then I'll identify another one, you know, maybe Virginia Beach, let's just say. So let's just give an example, guys. No one hold it against me if you don't believe to that. But in other words, I'm identifying to my belief from what I know from other people that these are 3. So maybe I can now look into those areas and see how cheap they are. Right, if I want to break it down to a townhome, while I might want to break it down to a single family home. But in other words, sometimes most people assume that beach houses are so expensive, what have you. But now, little do they know, a lot of those are now up for sale, and because of the days on the market, now they're starting to go down in price. But a lot of times, people still assume that it's still much higher. Now, the next talk in regard to the beach, people always say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with those taxes or the insurance." Mind you, if it's not waterfront, the insurance is not always as high as they assume. So that's what I'm saying. Position yourself in those while you identify the demographics, the fact that, okay, if you realize that the majority of the demographics that you're talking about, they're not first home buyers, that's fine. But I'm sure that of all those individuals, some of them are thinking about finding a property elsewhere. And if you're able to then come to them from that angle of reminding them how cheap those other properties can be, but yet how these unique products allow them to not come out of pocket as much as they want to, then the message no longer goes from the current interest rates and goes down to being in alignment with their pain. It's not a pain, right? It's just a go. And that in essence sometimes becomes a pain because I can't wait. Right, that anxiety, I can't wait to have that. But yeah, oh my gosh, you just help me realize how easy it actually is. Oh my gosh, it's actually possible. I don't need to have the 20% in cash. I actually have enough equity in my life. So know that there's so many ways in real estate that one can position themselves. And I appreciate, Carly, you know, you being blunt, because that's one of those type of conversations that oftentimes come with us. But again, I'm not interested, at least for me, and to each his own, guys. So don't take everything I say literally. I'm not interested in talking to those individuals that have having a hard time around the economy. I'm trying to find the average key, that motivation as to what I can do to help them get to where they said they want to get in the first place. Another comeback that we're saying, or that I'm saying, for those individuals that maybe have never bought real estate, there are, you know, still tenants, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to buy it. I'm just going to wait and all that type of stuff. I more so say, well, I stick with facts. And so something like that would be, you know, oh, I just don't want to buy right now. And it's okay. I get your position. Certainly no pressure. It's just, you know, as you can imagine, I keep getting this question, or folks keep talking about it. But the reality is that wherever you live, you're going to have to pay someone anyway. So another thing is that most times people are waiting for the interest rates to go low. And so far, there's nothing shows that interest rates are declining. But what continues happening is that the sales price continues increasing. So eventually we may reach a point that whatever you wish to buy today, although it is possible, and yes, it's not the payment that you may want, the point is that if the numbers continue going higher, then you might find yourself in a situation where actually you won't have an option, whereas now you actually do have options, because there's a lot of grants and programs that's available out here that can help you, you know, so in other words, if that's that type of person that I'm facing, then that's when well, help me understand what do you feel is stopping you? Oh, I just don't think I have the credit. Well, when was the last time you checked your credit? Oh, I checked it 3 years ago. Oh, well, have you done anything that can worsen it or improve it? Oh, well, I mean, since then I've gotten some credit cards. I just don't know. I haven't checked it yet. Well, if you want, I could check it, because at the end of the day, normally, as long as you have at least a 680, then there are grants out here that can offer you some assistance to buy towards a property. So that's one way that can help you save money. And then also, you know, so in other words, you're not putting pressure on them, that you're just helping them sort of realize that it's not as hard as they're predicting. And so the more that you can, once again, position, the more that we can all position ourselves to be that problem solver people, then it may not be that one, but yet you've also opened up dialogue for now that person the next time that they encounter someone else, right? Because you can imagine that type of person, they're now talking to someone else, and they're like, oh, well, this realtor that I met told me about some program or bridge program that I don't have to put any money down. I can actually just, what? Hold on, what? And that person might be looking for that same solution. So that's what I'm saying. Position yourself where you're partnering with the lenders that offer those unique products. Position yourself to, regardless of what's going on in the economy, that someone still needs to move. So it's about building relationships, leaving them with lasting impressions of you. And sometimes lasting impressions of you may be that showing them how you're that problem solver for them. So does that answer? I said a lot, but I just wanted to articulate, because these are frequently asked questions that I'm oftentimes getting. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I shared as much as I could in hopes that it can help any of you. Where are those grants available? So Maryland, for example, Maryland has an actual website that so for example, it's like it's MMP Maryland. So I'm only saying Maryland, but I know that every other state has their own. So maybe if you Google, let's just say someone said Kansas. So let's just say programs. I would specify grants available in Kansas State, programs available in Kansas City or Kansas State. Like you want to specify it exactly that, because no programs and grants can be different and normally are different. In summary, programs normally you have to do, there's a caveat, there's something you have to do to pay it back traditionally. Don't quote me on everything I say, guys, but traditionally that is the difference. Programs, somehow, some way, you have to do what they're telling you. So sometimes it's like you have to live in the property for at least 5 years and you don't have to worry about paying it back, or you have a second mortgage, or now you have we're going to give you, it's a higher interest rate. It's something that comes with that program. Whereas grants, normally, as long as you normally are the occupant, you're a first time home buyer, and you live there for at least 3 years, then you don't have to worry about paying it back. So in other words, sometimes with programs, there's something that causes you to have to pay something back, and grants are normally, as long as you abide by what they're telling you, you don't have to pay it back. So just position yourself and know the difference when you're putting yourself in those situations. So then that way, as you're identifying a person's problem, then you're able to then offer that of what can bring them the solution. Any other questions? All right, guys. So let's take the next 10 minutes to be able to just dial, text. I wouldn't say dial because we're still in class, but we'll rescind this call this class in the next 10 minutes. But let's take the next 10 minutes to reach out to all the A's that you can reach out. And if anyone is able to get an appointment, by all means, share it with the group. And if not, at least you've done your part, and hopefully they'll do their part by tomorrow for you to start building that relationship. And remember, hopefully all the things that you guys have learned in today's class can help you, come at it from different angles, if you didn't already think of it, to be able to close the deal and make it converted to an appointment. But before we go, any questions, any ahas, anything that you would like to share or ask right now before we disperse? Well, I hope I didn't bore you guys. All right. All right. So the next 10 minutes, guys, is 7:22. We're going to go ahead. I'll come back right at 7:32. If you have any questions, by all means, bring them there. And if not, then we'll dismiss the class at that point. Okay. 10 minutes. Text anyone you know. Not boring at all. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your feedback. 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes. 7:32. We'll be back. Thank you. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? It's 7:30. Kudos to you guys for still sticking on. I know that once when we went into break, some folks came off, but so kudos to you guys for lasting. And so I think it was only right to kind of just treat y'all off and say, all right, guys, not 10 minutes, but 8. But of course, with all that, that's your treat for staying true to what you committed yourself to. Then with all that, any questions that come to mind, anything else that comes to mind that perhaps you'd like to talk more about or have any questions overall? Remember what you're doing now. If you keep that up, imagine where you'll be in a month from now. And even if the first month doesn't go well, don't stop there. The point is to keep going. You know, having a business for anyone, whether it's opening up a restaurant, rather it's you know, you're opening up dry cleaners 24/7, right? Until that business starts coming. And so everyone's path is going to be different. Don't get caught up in so and so started with me and everyone's path is different. So you stay true to who you are, you stay true to why you're doing it and what you're doing and what you have to value, and best believe that will eventually come around and it works. So in closing, that is it. Any questions? Again, please take advantage. If you have any questions, any, you know, feedback in regards to what you're facing in your marketplace that I can help you with, I'm happy to help. In closing, is there anything else that anyone would like to off mute themselves and share right now?
It was another great class. Thank you again so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate your response. Be sure to fill out the questionnaire. There's a survey that they pass out to kind of see how I did with you guys. I hope you guys took away something, and it's a joy being with you guys. Sincerely, thanks for your valuable time with me, and kill it, guys. Go ahead and do it. Take territory. God bless. Have a good one, guys.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Please.
Oh, you said that you're based in the DMV. What part of Maryland do you work or focus on? And do you mentor new agents?
I'm always I'm happy to mentor whoever would like for me to mentor, because it's just one of those things that I like to treat people how I want to be treated. And so am I currently mentoring? I've done it in my path, but currently I've just not been doing it as much just because business has been capping me, but I'm always happy to help. So even though I'm not doing it, I'm happy to go back to it if you'd like to, and I'm happy to share with you my information, and you can send me, you know, you can so I'll share it in the chat in case you'd like to reach out, you know, any of you guys would like to reach out to me offline, and we'll just take it from there. I'll
Okay.
send you guys my email. I'll send you the one that I normally always track, and that way I'll reach out accordingly. And then we'll take it from there. Feel free to, you know, if you ever send me any questions or anything, feel free to dive into what the problem is. I'm a problem solution. So how I can help, and then that way we'll create a solid plan that works for you, works for me, and we'll take it from there. Thank you for asking. But if anything, that concludes our evening. Thanks again for your time. Till next time. See you guys.
Have a great night.
You as well. God bless. Bye-bye.